Okay, hello everyone. Hi, thank you for joining us once again for this episode of People Who Inspire. Hi, hi. I'm excited. I'm excited for today. We have Dr. Paul Azunre in our midst, and as I shared earlier on the social media platforms, we're going to look at very important topics around artificial intelligence. We'll look at machine learning. We'll look at also natural language processing and the social impact. But before we go into the topic, we'll also take a look at the journey of Dr. Azunre, what his journey has been so far. Most of us remember him from the National Science and Maths Quiz, but we'll look at what life has been after that, and also the behind-the-scenes work that he's been doing with the Ghana NLP and Algorine and all that. So we'll look very deeply into all the stuff that he's been doing. Welcome, Dr. Paul Azunre. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. This should be a lot of fun.
Yes, and how's the weekend been so far for you?
I can't complain too much. Just staying busy. Staying busy. Launched some code. Went to bed. Woke up, checked the results, launched the code again. Had a meeting.
Yeah.
We had a Ghana NLP meeting.
Yeah.
But this is all fun stuff. The weather is nice. The people you get to work with are nice. The work is interesting. So.
And on the average, let's say, how many hours do you spend coding, like on a typical day?
It depends. It really does depend on what kind of projects I have going. Sometimes I have to be writing for long stretches of time.
Wow.
Right. So whether it's like you're writing like a manuscript or something, or you are writing papers because you did some results several months ago. And also sometimes some of the code you run, it takes a while to complete. Right. So it's not like you are sitting there coding the whole time. It's like you come once in a while, you check the results, you change some hyperparameters, you launch it, you go do something else and come back. Yeah. So it's hard to tell, but you probably think about all the time when you work in this space.
Yeah.
It's always, to plan.
I have a friend who tells me that sometimes he dreams in codes. Like, has that ever happened to you where you go to bed and you're thinking about the code so much?
I think it happened to me with maybe in grad school when I was really like proving theorems and like the whole time. Yes, I mean, not just dreaming in it. Actually, like sometimes I would see the birds fly, and then I see the equation that I'm thinking about in it, and whoa! I mean, like the world, the world tends to speak, or I guess we interpret the world based on our own mind. So we will see the patterns that we expect to see everywhere. Yeah.
Exactly. And so to already let's say start the conversation, can you tell us and the viewers a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up, and how was it like really growing up? We've always let's say known you as a very let's say I call you a titan in the world of academia, and also especially with starting way back with the National Science and Maths Quiz, and the Opokuwari boys were texting me the whole day. Hey, you have one of our people, on your show. So, what was it like growing up, and where did you grow up, and how really was it like for you?
Okay, it's a very broad question, but my dad is from the Upper East region of Ghana. There's a town called Bongo Soing, very close to Bolga Tanga, which is the Upper East capital, or used to be. Now they've restructured them up. But you know Bolga, right next to it. And my mother is from Russia, a town in southern Russia called Rostov-on-Don. My parents met when my dad was doing his PhD in Russia. So I was born actually in the Accra area, Pokuase.
Oh, okay.
When they came back. And so I spent like the very beginning of my life in Ghana, and then we moved to Russia afterwards. I spent 10 years there. I came back to Ghana. I spent another 11 years or so in Ghana. And then I came to the US for college.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just to give you a sense. And so, yes, so when during those 11, 12 years in Ghana, I went to PeopleWhoInspire school.
Yes. And the PeopleWhoInspire boys won't let me sleep.
Well, yeah, I mean, the quiz is, there is a lot of excitement about it, around it. So,
yes.
People get excited.
Yeah.
People, I guess, appreciate when you win something like that for them. So that's cool. But it's also kind of like a quiz competition, It's not like it's not like today that pays my salary or something. It's
exactly.
Like a cool thing that people say, oh, you did, that's cool, but it's not. I can't monetize it, at least not directly, right? So but that was definitely fun. It definitely built. And by the way, just talking about monetizing, when we were doing it, it wasn't like it is today. I should say.
Yes, exactly. Now there's a lot of money.
Those kids getting cars, they get cars, and they get what cars?
Yes,
what? That's
crazy.
Getting
free laptops, $5,000
scholarships. Yeah, I mean, it's very good. Let's say it that way. It's excellent that these young, bright minds are getting these wonderful opportunities. During our time, we just did it because we really wanted to. We just did it because that's the dream. You dreamed about holding the cup. You just dreamed about it. You dreamed about it for 3 years. So you better fucking do it. That's how. Who knows? Maybe putting more money in it makes it build the excitement, right? So maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it can make. I think the incentives can be, off a little bit.
Yeah. True.
Just an opinion, personal opinion.
And so let's say, I mean, after the National Science and Maths quiz, what happened next? So did you? I surmise from reading a bit about your background, you went to Swarthmore, and what did you study there?
I studied engineering. So the quiz, National Science and Maths quiz, it made me very good at taking tests.
Okay.
One of my eyes closed. Those American SATs, it's because you are used to solving those same problems in 30 seconds in front of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's compared. So I was able to do very well in the SATs. That's how you get admitted to the American schools, at least at the time that I did it, together with some, essays you write and stuff, which are also important. So yeah, that got me into Swarthmore College, and there I studied engineering. And Swarthmore College is a liberal arts school, which means, we don't have electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and all these specializations. We have engineering, and not only that, you can also study multiple things in addition to engineering. The structure is so that you can say, do another major. So I did another major in economics. Some people do another major in computer science, which might be more technical. Some people do history, who knows. Whatever it is that you think you're trying to build. And so people build very unique programs for themselves. I think that was crucial in my path, because the education, the focus shifted away from taking tests and doing well on tests. And, check, to more like thinking about, and sometimes in some of the classes I took, there was not a right answer to the project problem.
Oh, wow.
We took a project and we worked on it just to see if it was going to work. The students were excited. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. We learned something and we moved on, which is kind of like real life. This is how really things happen when you're inventing things in industry or whatever. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So I think that was crucial, that very practical exposure at Swarthmore College.
And yeah, that was quite interesting because when I was going through your profile, I realized, okay, so I saw engineering, then I saw economics. I was a bit confused. Like, okay, so what's happening here? What really?
Liberal arts, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like really, it's. I think it's. I think Patrick Ewua from the founder of Ashesi University also went to Swarthmore, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Actually, Ashesi is modeled after Swarthmore College.
Okay.
So that's basically what he was trying to do. He went there, his mind was blown that, oh, wow, this education can be so valuable. He went to Microsoft, he worked, and he was one of the early people. So he made a good amount of money. And then he basically started a liberal arts college, our first one.
Okay.
And you see what it is doing, right? Do you see how it's changing the scene?
Completely transforming
definitely
education.
a concept we should think about.
Yeah. And one thing that fascinated me also was that, did you take any courses in, let's say, behavioral sciences at Swarthmore?
Yes,
or
you have
any...
to take chemistry. You have to take some basic biology, maybe. Chemistry, definitely. I took several of those. I think you have a choice. You have a choice. So you can't do everything. But again, to be frank, the chemistry I took, I already knew. That's how I felt. Like those freshman classes, yeah, I already knew that stuff. Because actually the science and math quiz makes you study ahead, so definitely.
I was going to ask how the transition was for you, because with the National Science and Maths quiz, I think that you guys usually have a very special kind of training where you are learning ahead of the syllabus, and really, speed, accuracy, you are kind of really preparing for all those things. So I was going to ask what the transition was for you from the type of education in Ghana and also transitioning to Swarthmore. Was it really hard to get up to speed with the kind of educational system?
Certain things were hard. So, but other things were so easy that it compensated, if that makes sense. So like exams and like some of these freshman classes stressed a lot of people out, didn't stress me out. So it gave me a lot of bandwidth to focus on, those things that maybe I was lacking on, which is more like I didn't really know how to code in college.
Oh, really?
That wasn't. I mean, right now it's a common thing. Then not everybody had a computer even, right? So what are you talking about? You might write it on the board. Some people, I studied Word. I took a class on Word, Excel, and like in between some year in high school, I took a class on Word. Right, that's how much exposure we had at the time to like. So that definitely is something I had to learn, and I started with MATLAB freshman year. I did the research. I spent the summer working on a robotic arm, and I was controlling it with the robot. Controlling it with MATLAB. So it was trying to do like an experiment of ultrasound experiment. So you have to position it very precisely and then subject it to some stuff and measure. So that was my job the whole summer. And it was, incredible, changed my perspective in a lot of ways. Like the robotics things they do, the robotics competition, like something like that. That's also the time I learned about that, like actually controlling. And that was for me, I guess, maybe my mind was already kind of that way with even the process of studying for exams, very hands-on. So I was able to adapt to it quickly, but it definitely took some effort.
And I get that. And so I surmise that during your undergraduate study, did you already have an eye on MIT whilst you were doing your course in Swarthmore? I mean, at what point did your interest in MIT peak for you to say, okay, I'm going to grad school at MIT?
So this is very important to say that there are a lot of amazing schools in the world. And I mean, I'm a graduate of MIT. It's an amazing school. But I do not think how much extra, this premium it has in the public consciousness, I don't think it's justified compared to everybody else. You can get that education. You can actually get a much better graduate experience at some other place, to be frank. So I want to say that first, because that's what the reality is. And
exactly.
there are a lot of people who may not get in just because the odds are very low. It's extremely low. So in some ways, you're playing a lottery, right? So if you don't get in there, just understand that's not the only place. And in fact, there might be a place much better for you. First of all, that said, I was a child when in US. So yeah, I thought about it in advance. So from the beginning, let's say it that way. So that would be nice, because that's what people associate with, some kind of achievement level of intellect. So, as a child and thinking like a child, I thought about it way in advance. Yeah.
So more or less, let's say that was your dream school for some time. And what did you study for grad school at MIT?
I was in the computer science and electrical engineering computer science department. And in that department, there's so many different sub-specializations. I focused on what they call area 1, which is signal processing and those kind of algorithmic, at the time they were studying like compressed sensing and like how to represent data, information theory. So this is the stuff that was interesting to me because I had affinity for mathematics. I didn't really study mathematics formally like a pure mathematician, but I wanted to see. It drew me, like the algorithms and coding and, discovering like simple mathematical rules behind the universe that basically how it works that people have missed, that seemed appealing to me. And so that's the direction I headed in. It was like kind of like the journey was kind of like this, bouncing. The first one I did was I did some algorithm for biochemical reactions, how to track the way the various quantities evolve over time, specifically at very low volumes. So mass action kinetics, probably people watching this probably know what that is. Mass action kinetics is a law that says, the rate at which things happen is proportional to the product of concentration, something like that. Now, the thing that, unfortunately, that's only true when the volume is large. Okay. And when the volume gets smaller, you have to modify those equations with extra terms. And so I basically studied that model, and I developed a little extension to it in my master's. From there, I moved on to this optimization problem. It actually was a pure math optimization problem.
Wow.
So like parabolic partial differential equations, right? Which
I have no idea
described
what that is.
partial differential equation. Let's start there.
Yes.
You know what that is, right?
Yes, that ordinary. I know. But parabolic.
Right. So when you start with the ordinary differential equation, there's something varying in time. Then you can add a space dependency, right? So things will happen differently here, and so that gives you a more like a partial differential equation. Now, certain kinds of those are going to be parabolic. Some are going to be hyperbolic. Some are not going to have any structure at all. So that was I actually had to prove a theorem, like giving a set of assumptions on all parabolic differential equations.
Wow.
How do you use some fixed point theorem to show that there's a unique solution to this set of equations so that you can use them to bound another model and use that to find the minimum points or like the best point for it to operate. So the goal was to design engineering systems for, say, maximum efficiency or minimum distortion. That was the practical motivation. But you have to prove things mathematically. You have to show that your computer program is going to converge, or the error in it is going to go down, right? You can't just solve and hope for the best. I mean, you can. People do that with Navier-Stokes because we've seen a lot of good feedback that it works. But in general, if you can prove something mathematically, you will try to do that. So that was actually the place where my mind kind of started shifting differently in a theoretical way. Yeah.
And I surmise that kind of also was that the beginning of your interest in machine learning, artificial intelligence, natural language processing?
Not really.
I mean, at what point did you
Actually, no.
get that interest?
I'm a little bit of a contrarian, so when I saw like all the masses running towards this thing and like all this nonsense you hear on TV about the robots are going to replace us, all the stuff like I was like, I don't want any part of this, And so this is when I was studying the math stuff. I was like, yeah, what is this, right? And then I did the optimization. I actually used it to design like a part of a solar panel. We built it. And then I ended up in industry, and due to some practical challenges with the technology, that didn't work out. So I had to move on, or I had to seek other applications of some of my knowledge and some of the tools I had built. Now, it turns out, of course, that machine learning is an optimization problem. Right. At least in practice, the two fields may be very different in the way they do stuff. But conceptually, yes, machine learning, you're minimizing the error between the data and what's coming out of your model, right? It's an optimization problem. So if you are in optimization, you can transfer a lot of your knowledge to this domain. And so I found a job. I just landed in detecting fake news online, because during that time, that's what people were talking about, and that was the huge thing. And so I joined a startup in Austin. I'm in Austin right now. I joined a startup called, at the time, New Knowledge. They call themselves Yonder now. I was employee number 1.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so from the very beginning, together, I mean, I think there were two. The CTO was hired. The CEO hired the CTO, hired me, and hired one other guy. So we came joined together. There was 4 of us. We lived in the closets. It's like a huge company now. They have all this investments, but it started in the closet, and I was one of the people.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's how I got into NLP. Because the way you detect fake news around the world, is by checking, using you can't read all the messages everyone sends, right? But a computer might be able to, right? So you write a computer program to somehow process the text and the speech, and so that you can detect somebody saying something maybe targeted at, let's say, an electoral process or some brand online that they're targeting because of their, positions on issues. Right? So it's a machine learning problem. So I basically started working on it, and it's moved so quickly and it blows up so fast that I was doing this thing, and then transfer learning for NLP became a thing, and then actually a publisher reached out to me because I was working on some methods in the space. They reached out to me like, do you want to write a book on this? Basically. I was like, let's do it. Yeah. So now I do machine learning.
Yes, and maybe can you? So I was reading a bit about NLP, and I realized that it's basically a fusion of, let's say, computer science and linguistics, right? So I'm really curious. So, like, really combining the linguistics, do you need to have some background in linguistics? And maybe you can also explain to the viewers what really is NLP and how is that linked to machine learning and maybe artificial intelligence? Are they interlinked somehow?
Okay. So the answer to your first question, just so that I don't forget, usually these things are team efforts. You can't do everything yourself. That's something that maybe children watching this might think you can do everything yourself. You can do a lot of things yourself. but eventually you're going to need to work with somebody else. And so in this field, this is what happens. People work together. You need the linguists. You need people who know how to label data, store data, databases, all that stuff. You need the machine learning scientists. Even on the machine learning, you have the theoretical ones. You have the machine learning engineers who are more applied, right? So it's a whole, there are people there to help you with the linguistics. I do not have a linguistic background, zero, none whatsoever. But in a lot of these kind of things, you kind of just start going, and then you work with people who know what they're doing, and you just start picking stuff up. So that's the answer to your first question. What is NLP? A simple way to describe it is making a machine basically be able to process human language, whether it's text or speech, so that it has some context of what the human is saying, and it can make a decision based on that automatically, whether it's to chat with them or to forward them to some service they're looking for, a product they're looking for, whatever. So it's basically understanding machines, listening to human speech, and making sense of it. That's NLP. Now, what practically that means, really, there's a lot of wonderful research, and it looks complicated from a distance. But really what people are trying to do is find good ways to convert text into numbers. That's it. If you think about it that way, it simplifies a lot for you. Because you can create...
the computer understands the numbers and not the text.
The computer can add the numbers. The computer can subtract the numbers. And then if the numbers are above a certain value, you can make a decision. If they're below it, right? So the computer can automate decisions if it has numbers. But those numbers, it can't be any set of numbers, right? It has to have the right set of properties, right? So this is where the problems start. Because, for instance, if you said, I use this example a lot. If you said cell, right? If you said cell, what are you talking about? Do you know? What could it be? Could it be the biology cell? Or could it be a prison cell? Right? Which one?
Okay.
Now, but that, of course, depends on the context, as you said, right? So really the big thing recently has been understanding context. For a while, we didn't understand context. We built context on a very high level for all of the text, but not for very specific situations that we saw it in. But now we are beginning to look at the context dynamically, so that if we see the same word, based on the context, we produce a different set of numbers that is going to be more representative. And we make the numbers for things that are similar to each other closer. Like vectors have to be closer. And if they are not similar, they have to be far away. Because that also helps make decisions, right? Like if you are trying to sell a product to somebody, if you know what kind of product they bought before, and you can measure similarity between that product and the one you're selling, then you have a way of knowing whether this might interest them.
Okay.
Right. So a computer can make those decisions at scale and produce, potential clients for you to approach, who actually this might seem like a salesy thing, but they might actually really need what you're looking for. Right? They might actually be looking for something. And you might have done, like in a lot of my work, sometimes I'm looking for a tool. And like in my music, sometimes I'm looking for a tool to solve a specific problem. So Facebook saw that I was looking for that, or Google saw it and they sold my information to somebody. And now Facebook is showing ads based on exactly what I'm looking for. I'm like, oh my God, this is... I used to view it as, it's like a problem, like, oh, these ads are following me. But if I'm deliberate about how I trigger it, so that if I'm really looking for something, then I put it there. And who knows, that 3 days later, I get exactly what I'm looking for. I wouldn't have found it otherwise, right? So it can be good for everybody as long as there is some kind of order to it.
Wow.
I hope I explained NLP.
Yes. I think I get it now. So let's say apart from the advertising bit, I'm guessing that products like Siri and and all that would use also this technology, right?
Yep. So as I said, there's text and there's speech. So the example I gave, that's a text example. There are speech examples. An example would be Google Translate, talking to Google Translate.
Yeah.
And having it say the same thing in some other language so that I can navigate some country I've never been to, right? So the way the systems do it, and not all of them, but really the popular way, I guess, to do it is to convert the speech to text first.
Okay.
So speech recognition is going to convert it to text, and then you do the text to text, and then you have a text to speech at the other end that will then produce it in the other person's language, right? So there are three pieces to it. Building text, speech to speech. I think people have tried that, but that isn't really practical. Maybe it doesn't work good enough. That's not really how I would do it today. And I'm actually working on this problem right now. This leads us into the Ghana NLP problem. I don't know
exactly. Yes.
Which is
You're
Ghana
right.
NLP. What's Ghana NLP? But I'll let you. I'll let you.
No,
it's fine.
Ask the question. Yeah, because I'm just going to ask that now that, let's say, I get an understanding of the NLP. I was just going to dovetail into this social enterprise that you're working on, the Ghana NLP, and really, how do you fuse this? It looks like really high-level technology into our context, and what really is the motivation for you trying to start something in Ghana with the Ghana NLP? What really is the motivation, and what do you seek to achieve?
Okay, so we spoke about Google Translate.
Yeah.
We just did. If you open Google Translate and you try to look at the languages it makes available, you will find that Ghanaian languages are not on the list. And if you're Ghanaian, and I was moving between countries, I told him my background. And so there are some languages, like Tree, I understand most of it. I can even say certain things, maybe a laughable accent. And for me to improve that, some of these tools would make it amazing. If I sit in a classroom, and I remember this, when I sat in a classroom and I tried to speak and people laughed at me, I just stopped. I just stopped trying, Now imagine I had a tool which would listen to me and say, okay, you said this word wrong, right? So try again. And it's a tool that I can just do it on my own, however long I can. Then you see, this is what happens when you work from home. You hear the dog? It's probably somebody walking, just minding their business. The dogs decide anyway. Where was I?
You're talking about being able to use if you have an app and it corrects you when you speak like the Tree language and you make mistakes.
Exactly. Then you can learn the language. Gorne or Frafra, which is where I'm from. I don't speak it at all because I didn't even go to school there.
Yeah.
I didn't even go to school there, and the age I was, there was just no way I was going to learn it just automatically. But if there were tools like text to text, I could begin to learn to say simple things, and then a text generation tool or voice generation tool that I can listen to for each thing that I am interested in, I would have learned it. So we need these things, right? Just for education. For education. But there are bigger questions at stake. Like, everything in the world today happens online. It's an information ecosystem, right? Everything is information that's moving around. And the way that ecosystem has a lot of things happening in English, French, and all of these other things, or other large languages, Dutch, but African languages are not in there, which means that basically, in a certain sense, we don't exist.
Yeah,
does that make sense? Like if the aliens came and they looked and they could only interact with the most important aspect of our economy, which is information, we would not even be on the map.
Wow, that's a very solid point.
And say the way Google ranks the most important things in the world when you search for, say, startup or anything you're searching for, it ranks them. It ranks them based on the same NLP methods. And if that system does not understand our languages, it will not rank us where we need to be. And, there has been many instances, even actually in the United States, this is like kind of like a fairness question or a case study where the systems understood how, say, white people speak.
Yes.
But I didn't understand African American speech, which means that when the government was making decisions on what is public opinion, they completely ignored the African American opinion and only focused on what white people think.
Wow.
Right. So this is like practical.
It's major.
You gotta be in the conversation, otherwise you will be ignored. You understand? So this is like a philosophical thing. It has to happen, right? And there's nobody better to do it than us. If you look at why Google Translate didn't put our languages in, I have no idea. I don't work for Google. I don't represent them. Let's make that clear.
Yeah.
But I can make an educated guess. I think when they rank the languages in Africa, and they rank it by the number of speakers, because in Ghana we have so many languages, it breaks up where we are on that ranking. We are very low on that ranking. And those rankings are important for companies like Google because the bottom line is ad revenue, and that depends on how many people are, right? How many people are looking at the ads.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So if the numbers are low, they're like, we are not interested in this. But it makes sense from their perspective, right? But from our perspective, does that mean, should we let those kind of things drive where the universe ends up or where our place in the universe? No, right?
No,
and I'm not saying I have nothing against Google. I think they do amazing work. But I also don't want our society to be in a place where we are beholden to them or like we have to react to what they want or what they need. We have to do things for ourselves. What we need is to be in the conversation. And so we are doing it. We are doing it at Ghana NLP. We are building open source tools. We've built an app that translates at least the major languages. Tree, Ewega, Equapim Tree. I have to make that. Some people expect Asante Tree. It's Equapim. And the only reason is that it's all about the data, how much data you have available. And Equapim is the prestige dialect, which means when they started translating the Bible and all these religious texts, they did it in Equapim first. And for that reason, a lot of the data available to train the models is in Equapim. So the only thing we could do at the beginning, without investing a lot of funds, which we don't have, into creating new data, this is where we had to start. Okay, so I'm just trying to explain it because some people get upset, like, why is my dialect not here? Or my language isn't here?
Exactly.
And they think it's because we have something against. Well, we are working under constraints. So we will get to all the dialects. We will get to all the languages. It's challenging. It's challenging doing it without funding and doing it like an open source project. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes community support. So I just want to make sure people understand what's going on. We are definitely looking at it. We've contacted a lot of linguists all across the map. We applied for money. Not all of it came through. So, there are challenges because you have to pay the linguists to create the data.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can try and crowdsource, but it might not be high quality. And then you're going to end up a lot of time cleaning it. Because you want the representation of the language to be correct. Right? The representations of the language we build has to be correct. It can't be just, So we need to sample. We need linguists involved, basically. And that time has to be paid for. And so that's a good thing. We need to create the jobs. So we need to raise the money. And those things just take time. Please be patient with us, Ghanaians. We are getting to it. Actually, we are training the Kaya app is available on the App Store, Google, and we recently made it available on Apple devices as well. You can download it on your iPhone.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Next, we are going to put it on the Windows Store, the Mac, on the Mac Mini. If it's M1, which is the recent line, it will already work. The older ones, the Intel Silicon ones, we have to work on it. But it's all on the map. We are going to make APIs available. Translation is not the only thing we are working on. That's important to say. The NLP problem is much bigger, right? There's sentiment analysis, which is one way of detecting, let's say, toxic comments, or like classification, right? Is it toxic comment that should be removed from the website, or is it not a toxic? That's a classification problem. There are different types of classification problems where you're trying to identify the part of speech. If you give you a word, a sentence, what each word in it, what part of speech is it? Because that's useful information. Name, and then there's named entity recognition. Is it a company like Google? Are you talking about like some named entity, Bill Gates, right? Because if you're doing automated analysis of news or something, right, you need to know those kind of things. You might want to question answer. You might want a chatbot on WhatsApp so that you talk to it in the local language and it can advise you, right? So there's a broad, like, spell checkers, language detectors, all that stuff. We're working on it. If anybody is listening to this and they want to learn programming, NLP, machine learning, open source community, please come join us. We have some support from Microsoft that enables us to offer that as an incentive to join, where you get to use Azure for free.
Oh, wow.
You get to join for at least for the next 1 year. If you join us, you can test, and you might even get, like, some guys are trying to build like a distributed, like we have the Kaya app, right? That's working, but it's not like if everybody in Africa logged in right now, it will probably crash. It can't handle the requests, right? And we plan to expand. We have to expand even West Africa and beyond, because Ghanaians are interested in talking to their neighbors when they go to trade, right?
Yes.
And a lot of these foreign apps don't really prioritize local to local translation, like airway to tree or anything like that. So we are trying to get African to African included. And so the users are going to grow, but we need to scale. We need a scalable, auto-scalable way. So some guys, we just give them access, it's 10K, go and figure it out. And they're doing it and having fun. So if something like that interests you, please join us. But I wanted to actually make a point about, you asked a question that I don't think I've answered yet, which is, how do you adapt to this local context?
Yes.
So this is what my book is about, pretty much. Transfer learning in NLP. And I even used it as an example earlier. Transfer learning is simply the idea that you can reuse prior knowledge in new situations. If you know how to do one thing, there may be something about it that's very useful for doing another thing. So you don't have to learn from scratch. Human beings do not learn from scratch. If you see an object, you throw an object, you understand the trajectory. Whether it's a square or it's a circle, it may follow slightly different trajectories, but there are some general things. It will go up, flatten out, fall, right? And after you do it long enough, you see the pattern. So you expect that when you throw a new shape, it will follow a similar trajectory, right? So this is an example of transfer learning, how humans might think about it. Now, machines have to do that too. One of the reasons is, important reason is, for the text analysis that we do nowadays, the models are huge. And they're trained on billions of words. And so if you are somebody, like, let's say you have a little startup, 4 people, and you're trying to compete or like have a system that's performing on a similar level to that, how are you going to get those billions of words, and how are you going to get the GPU farm to train? You have to reuse knowledge. And so what people have started doing is sharing their models, and the techniques have a way of transferring the knowledge in those pre-trained models to new situations, right?
Okay.
And it turns out it works across languages as well. So depending on the scenario, it may work better than other scenarios, and there are risks, biases that might be inbuilt that has to be mentioned. However, if you have no other option, that's what you do. Now, for instance, if I think one of the models that I deployed recently was a tree to English translator that I built from.
Wow.
I built it from a tree to French translator that I found somewhere.
Oh, okay.
So I initialized the weights and I trained on some data, and it works. Because there are similarities between English and French, right?
Okay.
They are limited.
I also heard that similarity between Italian and Spanish as well. There's some similarity as well.
Yeah. But you don't even have to think about it. Not in all scenarios. What they do, the multilingual models, is they pre-train them now on, let's say, hundreds of languages. So the ones you mentioned are going to be in there for sure.
Yeah.
And they may throw in Yoruba, Swahili,
yeah.
and maybe one other one, Wolof.
Yeah.
Chichichi. Done. That's like all of Africa. But those languages, because they're in there, they're going to make that model more likely to transfer to ours. So it's very important. Transfer learning is the bottom. I'm training. Actually, we are very soon going to have a speech recognition system in Tree.
Wow.
And there's no way we would have been able to do this if not for transfer learning, because that model was pre-trained on 50 languages. And so we are able to use like 10 hours or less of speech to fine-tune that on Tree. We are still doing it, so there's still challenges. But very soon it will be available, we are pretty sure. So that you can speak to it, and it can write what you're saying in Tree.
In Tree. Whoa. Yeah. That would be a game changer.
And of course, that's, as I described earlier, once you have that, then we already have the translator from Tree to English. And we already have English to speech generators. Those exist. So that pipeline is done, right? You should be able to talk in Tree and have it speak in English, right? And that's huge for somebody that's going to change their life, right?
This will be awesome. This will be amazing. I mean, I'm really excited for this.
It's very exciting stuff. It's very exciting stuff. It's remarkable. Like, you're thinking about the problem and like, how am I going to build a speech recognition engine? And then Hugging Face Transformers publish a thing, and you're like, oh, okay, wow. And then you think about it a few more days, then somebody tries it already on like some African language, and you're like, oh, 6 hours. That's all it took. 6 hours. You can create 6 hours of speech. Okay. So this is the field is very. This field is very. I encourage people to move into it and to at least track what's going on. There's so much opportunity to, build things that might be very impactful. So
this I think this is for me. So I was reading some literature, and one of the key, let's say, challenges of the Ghanaian language is that most of the records we have, should I say, were more oral in nature. So there's not much records to really keep even the early dialects. And I think for me, this kind of technology and what you're doing, I mean, absolutely is going to, whatever you build is going to last. I mean, it's not like because something happened, a war broke up, so there are no people who are speaking Tree, or there's a forever blueprint, that whether you're a foreigner, even for our kids, there are kids in Ghana who cannot still speak Tree, and they live in a Tree community and stuff like that. So for me, I mean, it's boundless. I see this is huge.
Yeah, and another thing I'll add to that is that what Ghana NLP is focusing on is the ecosystem. That's very important for me to say, because you see a lot of people, and actually when we first started it, we got some nasty emails.
Really?
Yeah, from people are saying like, why are you doing this? We are already doing it. Or like, why are you saying you were the first to do this? I already did it. And in a lot of those cases, it's not true. Like maybe they built a speech recognition system that could handle 3 keywords.
Yeah.
It's not the same as building a speech recognition system that can handle all of three.
Yeah.
Right. But again, that's really not really even the point. Nobody's trying to be the first and like, I'm the first who did this, and so I'm standing on a hill. That isn't really the point. Is you want to build a sustainable ecosystem, because that problem is going to change. The problem that society is going to face is going to change. Today it may be translation. Tomorrow it may be defending ourselves from foreign disinformation.
Yeah.
Right. And so if we are trying to build capacity as a country to have capability in this very important area, let's say it this way, beyond any personal glories or we need to have this capability, both in terms of cultural preservation, as you mentioned, and simply cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For instance, like we're wide open. Why are we wide open? Why are we not defending ourselves? Why are we not making our spaces safe from what could be interfered with, And so this is what the ecosystem is what matters. So we need a lot of people, and like we have 110 people in there now. We have people in KNUST, people at the University of Cape Coast, people at Harvard, just people who, and so for instance, and then I should mention there are lots of other organizations working on it.
Okay.
So one example is an organization called Masakane, which tries to focus on a more like African scope. So which it's again, they're part of our ecosystem. The same ecosystem. We help each other. When they release results and we see it motivates us. We are very happy. They don't tend to include Ghanaian languages as much as we would like, but this is why we exist, right? We share resources, you know what I mean? So that's really the way to move forward, especially because this is kind of an open source space. A lot of these models are open source. The knowledge is what's really, not a lot of people have the knowledge of how to use the open source tools, because they are complex, right? But they are out there. And anybody can download. If you have an internet connection and a working computer, you can start working on this. And there are so many resources nowadays that can help you overcome the limitations of your personal computer, like a GPU. Google Colab or Kaggle Notebooks is going to give you free GPU access to train at least the simplest of these models, right? So it's open source. It's very important for a sustainable community to emerge, not any one particular target.
Thank you. And for those of you watching, as we mentioned earlier, Transfer Learning, the book Transfer Learning for NLP, written by Dr. Paul Azunre, is we have a very special package for you. As you can see on the screen, you get a whopping 35% discount. So please visit the link, manning.com, where you can use the code PodInspire21, PodInspire21, where you get your 35% discount. I already bought mine, so I'm waiting for it to arrive. You can also do the same. Just visit the link on your screen, use the discount code PodInspire21, and then you get your 35% discount. It's really affordable. And like we mentioned, this is absolutely crucial for you to understand that we can already adopt existing models and to apply to our peculiar context. On top of that, we've been very fortunate to have Dr. Azunre to give us one lucky winner. I'm going to pick at random after the session. One lucky winner gets a free copy of the book as well. So you get a free copy. No strings attached.
What do they have to do? Do they text? Do they share the?
And that is what I wanted to let's get your input on. In my view, I was thinking that I'll go through the questions. So I've asked them to send some questions, and out of the questions that come through, I'll randomly select. But what do you think with that approach?
No, it's up to you as the host.
Yes, because I want an interactive audience.
Yeah. What some people have done before is, if they share it, then you pick the ones who shared it. Or I think questions is a good one.
Yeah. So
I did want to mention that so there are two parts to the project, the book project. There's the book itself, and there's the code that goes with it.
Okay.
And the code that goes with it is on GitHub and in Kaggle. You can just run the notebooks. That's free. So if you find me on Kaggle, you can get access to all the code and run it. Of course, if you have the book with all the background, and it would be easier. But the code, we'd still try to make it useful, even if you can't buy at the moment.
Okay.
You can still get the code and like get the basics.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So if you're watching, just keep your questions coming. So I'm going to pick. I want you to be very interactive, so you can ask your questions now already. I'll pick one random person who is going to ask one of the questions here, and then you stand a chance to win a free copy of the book. As mentioned, the code is free on GitHub, so you can also do that. So let me quickly look at this. So one last aspect that I want you to share with us, which is not, let's say, what a lot of people know you for, is that you also make music and you're a poet as well. Like I was really surprised when I said, I was like, okay, this is new. Can you, let's say, tell us about it? Because someone mentioned that they saw some of your music on, I think in one of the questions, he said he saw on one of the platforms, one of the music platforms, Spotify. Yes, he said he saw.
I've been making music since. I've been writing poetry since as long as I can remember. And so one of my monikers is Dr. Pushkin.
Yes, I saw that.
I don't know who Pushkin is. I don't know if you know who Pushkin is, but Pushkin is considered to be probably the greatest Russian poet.
Okay.
And he was a descendant. He had some African in his blood, basically. Someone, I think they think somebody from Congo, but they don't know for sure. So he was kind of like part black Russian, greatest Russian poet, right? Now, when I was a kid, the way that story started was when I was a kid in my classes growing up in Russia. That was the subject in which I stood out to my teachers. Creative writing, so prose, poetry, those kind of things, right? So, and of course, they saw a black kid being good at it, so they said Pushkin, right?
Okay.
So that's how the Pushkin stuck, and I became a doctor. So I'm like Dr. Pushkin.
Yeah, exactly.
If you check all the media platforms, you'll find Dr. Pushkin kind of does rap and maybe social trap music. So it's like hip hop. I write the lyrics. I think you enjoy it if you check it out. Paul Azunre is another. I release music as Paul Azunre, which is more chill, easy listening, instrumental music, hip hop beats, maybe chill hop, but it goes all over the place. Sometimes it's more like EDM almost. So it's like easy listening. Again, Spotify, whatever you use, you can find me there. And finally, there's that group called Isolirium, in which I'm together with my brother called Ataman Nikita. That's what he calls himself. And under that, we release some hip hop, but that's where we release our Afro fusion music. So we do more like, Afro beats, like Wizkid, those kind of things. So check it out. It's
definitely.
Have fun with it. I use this mic for it. It is.
Wow. There's one request though, if you can see on your screen. Can you see from Joel?
I see it.
So we want a freestyle, either a rap or a poem. This is the question he's putting this through. So you've been put on the hot spot now.
Yeah, I actually had, anyway, I'm not going to release. Very soon I'm going to be doing, I have a track dropping in about 2 weeks called Hallelujah. There's a nice Ghanaian artist on it. So check it out, April 9th. I am probably going to do, I haven't announced it yet, so this is first for your ears. I'm going to do a live stream concert to celebrate my first track this year. I'm going to stream it on Twitch, and you can join. It will be probably about 20 minutes. I'll start with older music, and then I'll, showcase the newest track. So that's
wow. So that's April 9th, right?
April 9th, yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I can do it. I can do one.
Yeah.
My rap it comes across as poetry if
okay.
I do it off the beat. So
we're listening.
This one is called Answers. This song is called Answers. It's a very contemplative song I wrote, or poet I wrote when I was in grad school, and I was doing actually all the math. So like my mind was doing overtime. Okay. Do you wonder why we cry? Let me tell you why. Looking up to the sky, the answer hard to come by. And I am not saying that you are insane for saying the same things that I have been saying. And I am not slaying your faith or your trust. I just advocate the answer inside of us. And it may just be that the answer inside of me, objective but so troubling, making the soul flee, even if it did exist in the first place, having lost it in this endless race through this maze. Cynicism aside, the views that I possess, while distressed from being stressed in this mess, my quest is manifest in the questions being asked. See no answers in my lifetime. Having passed my prime, I only believe concrete things that I see. And seeing all this, I see the answers inside of me. Foiled by perception, I ask the wrong question. The quest that I mentioned does not ease the tension that builds up inside. Apart from prying eyes, my face a disguise, a facade of lies. And maybe that's grossly and clearly unclear, but I can't resist the sweet taste of despair because the air I breathe steams with anger and rage. How else does one act when one's thrown in a cage? Can't question authority, can't challenge the code. A second-class citizen, my state I abhor. Then fight my own war inside my own domain. What for is the question? What for I remain? The pain to look outside makes me go looking for the signs. I see the answers inside. On the other side, I can't decide. The riches, the power, the selfishness, greed, I watch in despair as we adopt the creed.
Wow. Woo. Wow. That's wow. I've never like imagined you like doing music until I was doing my setup.
I used to do it at OAS.
Wow.
They know about it. Yeah. I used to climb the stage, yeah. Right from the Brilla room. We had a room where I walk over and do the thing, I go right back.
Wow.
It was funny. Yesterday when I was doing my test stream, that's how I set all this up for my concert. So random person on Twitch joined. It was like, hey, what's up? I'm like, hey, what's up? I didn't expect you. It was like, yo, do something for me. And so I basically did the concert for the guy.
Oh.
This random guy on the internet. I have the screenshots. It was like, wow, I'll follow you. Like, I'm gonna be at your show. So
wow.
I hope to see y'all there.
Yeah. Is there maybe you can, after the discussion, you can send either a link or something to me, and I'll also share. Because I think a lot of people are interested, and already people are surprised that this freestyle, like, okay, this poem you just did is like, okay.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Let me pick one or two questions here, and then we can wrap up. Our time is almost up now, so there's a question I would want to show on the screen. This is just on the very light side, and just he says, can he be able to answer something?
Guys.
Oh my goodness.
I actually watch it as much as I can, and I can answer a lot of them, or at least some of them. Some of them, no. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I'm not like at a place where I'm gonna grab a pen and start solving in 30 seconds. So some of those I just gonna let them go. Like if you ask me the scientific name of, like, I don't know, the tomato plant, I'm not gonna remember that. In the real world, you are going to go to this wonderful place called Google and you look it up. So it's definitely, it's like a sports thing. When you train for the race, you're gonna be able to do the 100-meter dash. But otherwise, you probably chop last.
Yeah. There's this other question. What are your thoughts on using NLP to group diverse people based on their written approach to tackling the same problem?
So he's saying, Abdullah is saying,
yeah. What are
if
your
we
thoughts?
used NLP to group diverse people based on their writing, tackling the same problem, which problem does he mean? It definitely has been done. So I remember a DARPA project where they looked at soldiers who came from war based on their text, and they could tell if somebody had PTSD.
Oh, wow.
Because, like when someone is responding to messages, and you can just tell, even a human can tell, right? But the machines can pick up the subtle, even the frequency at which they send. Maybe they don't send as much anymore. Their messages are shorter, their choice of words, right? So people have been grouped. There are definitely challenges with that, ethical challenges as well, right? Because somebody may have a nefarious purpose for grouping people, right? For instance, like insurance may want to deny people insurance because they're depressed or something. We can't let that happen. So that's definitely grouping of people by their speech has been done and is being done. Actuarial research.
Yeah. And for those of you watching, again, I'd like to stress that you can download the Kaya app on the Google Play Store as well as the Apple Store, App Store. So you can just go there, type in the name Kaya app, and you'll be amazed. I downloaded this like months back when, Dr. Azunre first shared it on LinkedIn. So I had a first experience with it at the time. So please feel free to do that. And also, if you're watching again, you can grab a copy of his book, Transfer Learning for NLP. Just go to manning.com and use the discount code PeopleWhoInspire 21, and you get a cool 35% discount on that. So coming to the comments section here, I'm picking this gentleman who, for the first time on the internet, has made Dr. Azunre do a freestyle, or let's say a rap of my show. So I'm going to pick Joel Budu as my winner for the free copy of Transfer Learning for NLP. So Joel, I'm going to hit you up after the episode, and I'm going to give you the link that you're going to use. So congratulations, Joel. You are the lucky winner for the free book giveaway.
I know Joel.
Oh, you know Joel?
He's in Ghana NLP.
Yeah. Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I wonder if he has a copy already.
Ah, that's a good question. I'll find out. If he has, then I'll give to another person for sure. But yeah. Oh, Joel, okay, he's excited already. He just commented. So okay, so Joel, you're the lucky winner, and thank you for what are your last words, Dr. Azunre, and what would be, let's say, your words of motivation for young people watching this who would want to pick up these emerging technologies, and how are there any resources, let's say, apart from something like your book, are there any resources that you can also share?
Yeah, I think there have been very few drivers of development and wealth comparable to what's going on right now in machine learning and NLP. I personally, in my opinion, I've never seen anything like it. I don't think most people have seen anything like it, those who understand. So, and the methods are becoming more and more accessible for people like us to use. Like instead of training things on lots of GPUs, now we can do it on Google Colab and get a decent enough result, which is free. Okay. So there's really a lot of opportunity for you to do very cool things and even build wealth, both for your communities, for a country, for a continent, right? So I really encourage you to get in on that. It's just some motivation. That's all. With regards to resources, the resources are out there. Motivation, finding a community, that's important. You have to find a community of people who are going to help you. You can't figure it out all of it out on your own. So one way to do that is to join open source groups like Ghana NLP, like Masakani and the rest. Join, contribute something, you learn something, and you get the real practical skills, which actually people pay for a lot of money nowadays. And that trend is only going to accelerate. So please get in on that. In terms of resources, Google Colab, Kaggle Kernel notebooks are your best friend, because most things need GPUs, and this will give you free access to GPUs. So that one is a major one. On Kaggle itself, or Zindi is a good one. Zindi, they ran a lot of competitions, and even they're using data in some of the efforts we were involved in, where they provide like a Yoruba data set and they ask you to build a translator, or they provide a Tunisian data set and they ask you to classify the sentiment into positive and negative, or they give you Wolof audio data and they ask you to do speech recognition, right? There are monetary prizes on both Kaggle and Zindi for these things, right?
Okay.
But that's it's nice to aim for, but I would encourage you not to look beyond that, just at the learning experience, because and you may even build a model that's in the top 10%, but doesn't win the prize.
Yeah.
That is the actual model that's going to change the world because you deployed it in an app, or you deployed it in a way that people could use around the world, right? So it's not only about optimizing accuracy. That's important up to a certain stage. And I would say these competitions kind of take it too far in terms of how much you have to optimize to get there. But in terms of learning experience, it's really hard to find something comparable, because you get the community, both on Kaggle discussions, you get data, which is hard to find, right? With African language data. So just go and look at, and the metrics are already implemented for you, so you don't have to worry about that. So you can just try something and like really get a sense for it. And so that makes it easy to adapt it to your own scenarios. So get in on all of that stuff. Reach out to people, follow the groups, follow Hugging Face Transformers, follow all those famous Jan LeCun, who Francois Cholet, follow all those people, and you may even, like, a lot of people actually disagree with a lot of things that say Jan LeCun says, but that isn't, that's up to you. You can follow and follow, or follow and understand that this is just their personal stuff. So sometimes they'll say things, just focus on what you can learn from them, and be nice to each other, please. Please be nice. When you go on Twitter, and then just be nice.
Yeah.
That's really, the kindness, it kind of goes around, you help somebody with their problem, they might help you next time.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate your time. I know, like you said to me earlier, that you have a ton of things to do, some papers to work on, but you still made time for us. I'm exceptionally appreciative of the fact that you did, the Freestyle, my show, for the first time ever. Ever. Yeah, it was not even planned, guys. It was not planned. I didn't know Joel was going to ask this, so this is some good stuff. Thank you so much. And I thank you all of you for joining and being part of today's People Who Inspire. Next week, I'll come your way with another episode. And thank you, Dr. Azunre, and have a great weekend and enjoy yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prince.
We're going to join you on April 9th. So I'll text you for the link so I can share, and then we can all tune in.
Sounds good. I'll see you, right. Ladies and gents around. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Yes.